Hey guys, hello, buongiorno, how is everyone? I just want to give this video a little attention. So yeah, were we better off or not with the whole stay in the woods, in the wild, in the Garden of Eden? Would humanity have been better off after all, or not? So this question, I guess it starts to rise once again like an echo in the times that we're living in, because well, humans have lived off-grid in the wilderness of any type, forest, seaside, desert, whatever you like, mountaintops. We've lived in nature since the beginning of time, beginning of humanity's well, procurement here, let's say. So this is something that we all know. Now in today's time, we have the artificial constructs that we have built. In many cases, yes, of course, for our convenience and ease of life. And in other cases, it seems to entrap us. All these ideas about cards and identification, being locked into credit, a mortgage, monthly payments, everything that keeps us hooked, whether we like it or not, whether it's legal or not, into the system. So I wanted to bring up, the idea of more and more people liking the idea of, especially spiritually minded persons, wink wink, about being more off the grid, and how possible that is, how realistic it is or isn't in the time that we're at. So if you look at human consciousness, the development of the spirit while it inhabits these bodies, we have grown over time. Many of us have evolved over time. So in this case, yes, of course, evolution is actually true. It's just not necessarily in the way the Darwinists had thought so. But they were right in thinking that over time things do evolve. Now, spiritually speaking, that's a default that is true. The earth was put here, measured appropriately and properly by the Almighty that made it. And, well, the sub-gods and sub-categories, whoever literally implemented this world. It seems to be a bit of a shady mystery. So I guess I want to bring up the idea of prophecies and such, when it talks about the end times and how humans should run away and go to the hilltops on the last day. For example, the judgment time, the rapture, if you will. And we look at a very powerful prophecy from what the Hopi Native Americans have talked about, the two lines of fate. I don't know if anybody has not seen it. Please go online, Google it, check it out. The Hopi stone, the prophetic stone of the Hopi First Nations persons who still live in the Four Corners region right now in the US to this day. And they were told that they would be protected up until the last day if they stayed true to the narrow road. So on the Hopi prophecy stone, for anyone who doesn't know, it's the large stone, and it has a vertical line and then lines coming off the side. I'm trying to remember exactly, but nonetheless, my paraphrasing of the whole thing for a term should be decent, I hope. So it talks about if we follow the straight path, we stay with nature, we can avoid all kinds of entrapment. Certainly, and most certainly what they meant was our own doing unto ourselves. So over millennia, if you take the straight path, you stay with nature, you abide by that, you don't take more than what you need, and you give your thanks, you give back, you live off the land for free. Everything is provided, just like in the Garden of Eden story with Adam and Eve. However much of an allegory that is to represent more than just two people. Maybe it meant the inception of the human race in a few different locales. It's hard to say. I really don't know all the details. It's in the amnesia, it's in the Akashic records, I guess. So, are we better off? Now, yes, the bottom line, which I was saying a second ago, it goes on, and it is eternal, and it can last, and it can go on indefinitely. So, would humanity be better off this way? Did we need the sciences and all these kind of things and these developments in order to prepare us for, a higher state of living? A lot of people can argue that cell phones, for example, are a precursor to telepathy, and all sorts of gadgets that we have are really to show us, to prove to us, even in the state that we're not really sure what's going on or what the end game might be, but it's for perhaps unlocking our innate abilities that we have telekinesis, teleportation even. Some of the saints in different different religious schools, it could be Hindu or Christian or whatever, Buddhist, it doesn't really matter, any different spiritual practice, people are able to do these things if they put in the great effort and if they have the faith to be able to do so. Like Christ walking on the water and then calling in Peter to come walk with him, and then he began to sink. And then Jesus said, "Why did you doubt?" And he lifted him back up, right? So our tendency to doubt ourselves is pretty strong, and still in many cases. So that's for another argument, maybe. So yeah, guys, what do we think about that? So if we took, so the other pathway of the Hopi line, the line of fate, if you will, is more like a staircase, kind of jaggedy, and had different developments to showcase humans' development over time, how we would uncover different sciences and different things and start to create, well, yeah, in a very real sense, an artificial way of living that is not necessarily congruent with nature or in harmony of it. Not that people can't do it, not that the extraterrestrials perhaps, or beings on other worlds, I'm sure that they have a much better symbiosis, if you will, a symbiotic nature with their technological developments and the 3D matter that is out there, and being able to work this in harmony. We haven't quite got it yet. So here's what I was asking for the sake of argument. Would we be better off having avoided a lot of these sciences and so-called progression, and getting into a state where it seems to very much entrap us, and it's only going to get worse? Our science and tech is only going to improve, and it might be further to our detriment. If we don't use AI responsibly, for example, if they want to start microchipping humans, some of you are even volunteering, whether they're paid stoolies or what have you, to do so, insiders, or they don't see the potential consequences, and they're feeding, the fan to that flame, as it were. So at the end of the Hopi prophecies, it shows a line coming down. It's like the judgment time, and everybody will be given one last chance to sort of repent of foolishness and destruction, pollution, killing the very environment that we live in just for profit. And in the end of the day, yeah, are you going to eat your money? Are you going to bribe God when you die and leave your body? You have nothing. You have zero. You're naked and poor and wretched. Jesus said that himself. If only you knew how naked and poor and wretched in actuality that you type of persons are when you chase only after those things. So, if we took the straight path and just lived with nature this whole time, would we have developed certain things? Well, I would think maybe we would have in certain cases. If you look at those yogis and different mystics of all traditions, it could be Islamic Sufis, it could have been Christian desert monks, people living in monasteries in the hills. Like we said before, it could be really anywhere, any environment. And the powers that could be developed, because people have more time to sit and think and be and learn, and not just do and work different jobs to accumulate money, just to keep a house, just to keep a car. I'm guilty of it too. And all of our endeavors and doings seem to go towards just maintaining the 3D properties, or let's be fair, everything we have is borrowed anyway. So are we better off? Should we have stayed in the Garden of Eden and developed our powers? Do we need technological advancements to help get us there, to help us understand the universe in a bigger way? One thing is true: if any single one of us was teleported or transferred back in time with our modern day phones and our cars, let's just say we arrived 1,000 years ago, 2,000 years ago, 5,000 years ago, with all that we have, with all that we've gained, they would have called us gods, absolutely. Just like when the early humans, if indeed they interacted with the Watchers, the ETs, the angels, some of them are all kind of one and the same, some of them are categorically separate in some capacities. Well, they said the same things, and all the ancient legends seem to suggest this very well. All over the globe, everybody has the same story. Everybody learned the same human history, that we were taught by such and such divine entities, and we would be watched while we unravel our own walk of fate, let's say. So this is very valid. And coming to a point now where we realize the karmic fruit of everything that we've done. all the damaging of the earth, the water being polluted and sick in many cases, all the plastic and all that stuff. We are so quick to always want to sweep something under the rug and let it be somebody else's problem, but it is our own inherent problem. And now we have a world where, we have a lot of sort of, let's be honest, fixing to do, to clarify things, to redeem, to cleanse, to return. And can we do that while our scientific progresses grow? Certainly we can, as long as it's not done wrong, handled in a poor fashion, and given into the hands of those who misuse it. Well, maybe come the end we'll realize, hey, good old clean nature is not a bad thing, and we don't need to be dirty and pollute with gasoline and smoke and things that don't necessarily get recycled back, energetically speaking. If they don't get recycled back, very well, right? So the question is, was this necessary, or is it two paths end up leading to the same point? Although some people will perish if they follow, their own destruction. And that's for the 3D physical as well as their own very spirit and soul. Unless God should so have mercy and recycle their energy in a different way. So what do you guys think? It's definitely something for debate. I'm feeling more and more that I miss nature. I miss being in the outdoors, and I'm not really accustomed to it. Like, I'm not a rugged outdoor type of guy. I can go camping, I have a tent, and I was even fishing earlier today. I'm not a master fisherman, but keeping the skill alive as my father taught me, and pass it on to my kids. So should we have stayed on the clean path with no tech and just developed our innate powers, but then we wouldn't really necessarily travel the stars unless simply spiritually or bilocating our mind or something, transferring the consciousness, like some of the ancient mystics for Egypt or Peru for that matter, anywhere, were able to bring back stories of their traveling into the stars and then coming back into their body. They didn't use a spaceship or anything like that. They just did it in some kind of incredible trance. And we're so far removed from these type of practices that if we did it now, it'd probably crack our sanity. But if you're like me, maybe you miss some of the outdoors. Maybe you're somebody who lives in the country, you have nature easily available. Here I don't have to drive very far to be in the deep green and find rivers and such, but it's not like I'm living along the riverbank, as it were. I have to go back and do my responsibilities, pay bills and all these things. So I'm just saying, I hope all this entrapment and stupidity will get us to a point where we go, we got to kind of bring that back, mature it, make it more ethical and sane and repeatable, and functioning in a way that it supports all humanity and not just making a few people rich while everything else is sort of cast to the side and destroyed. A lot of the elite people, they think that they can survive an apocalypse and they can travel to the moon or Mars. These are all bogus stories, but they certainly would like to believe it. And if they are able to go there, well, all right. You think you're good at being a representative of humanity? Or would they look at you and say, this one's a little too selfish for us, right? So I do firmly believe, yes, God is always watching. I believe that the return of the Christ is very real. I believe in Jesus very deeply. And the return is probably going to be, twofold within us as the development of consciousness, Christ consciousness. But it'll probably also be, even as the good book says, he will come across the sky and all will see him, even those who pierced him, even those who killed him. Does that represent individual persons or a type of people? Maybe. It could be all the above. So the Hopis and their prophetic stones say, there would be a last chance for people to sort of repent and say yes. And I'm sure they were alluring to, the great teacher himself, and seeing, the leader of the star people, or however they would have said it, in their tongue. Well, look, lo and behold, now we're at this point in humanity's unraveling indeed, and it's kind of like we're getting the idea of make it or break it, and a lot of us are kind of tired of being impoverished or just barely making paycheck to paycheck, since the game is rigged for other people to benefit, but not the average, quote-unquote, average person. So that begs the question for us: do we want to go off-grid, Do we want to take the clean, ethical, good things of the sciences? Like, do we want to live without the internet at this point? But can we have the internet and cars and this and that and still live in nature, trees and such, and wherever else, and not be destroyers but be preservers, and be those who can sort of lend the idea to other generations? So are we better off in the garden, or do we need to tweak this science? Maybe a bit of both. I don't know. That's been on my mind lately, to see, could we not have avoided so much of this, or do we really need to go through this? Probably we need to go through this to see, you know, the light in the darkness, or you can't appreciate the light without the darkness. And maybe that's the whole lesson that the Almighty is indeed giving us. And we're giving it to ourselves as we incarnate here. So yeah, let's make a new Eden, like the Christ said, a new Jerusalem, a heavenly city where holiness is at the helm, not greed and manipulative charades and such, but a priest and a king. And if you're a lady, well, be your own priestess and queen. And we rise up in the true consciousness and in the holiness and sustainability, and we can have a wonderful 3D world. Then we can start exploring across different planets and things in spaceships. But I think most people are not ready for that, or haven't earned it, or those who are sort of in charge here are not really always that responsible, so they shouldn't be the first for these things, although they certainly try, and they don't mind lying about it, like the moon landing, which certainly did not happen in the 1960s, because we've done sweet F all since then in that regard, proving anyway, if you saw the footage, it's a hoax. It's a pretty cheesy attempt, and they pulled it over people. The nonsense of it. All right, well, that's my message, guys. Garden of Eden, well, let's see. Back to sanity at any rate, and to realize, unless we align with that which is good and true and tolerant and decent, if we don't align with these things, we're doomed, and we'll be either swept up in the causation of other people, or it's going to be our own undoing. But we have to sort of be mindful, and let's not be in a point where we think, it's fine. I think we're going to see a little more ugly before better, and then finally the best is going to happen. So let's hold freaking strong to that faith and believe in it. Okay. Love you guys much. God bless. Blessed be. Namaste. And we'll catch you on the flip side. Okay. Ciao.